Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Yeah, I'm doing a series of videos. I have the interview with Tim Canova at 1 p.m. today, Thursday. So that should be amazing. But in the morning, I'm doing a series of videos while I'm up. Couldn't sleep, so might as well get some work in. I've just read an awesome article by Vanity Fair talking about something that I myself, a year ago, talked about. I like reading about stuff currently that I was talking about like a year ago. It makes me feel something. I don't know what it is. A little bit of pride. So this is the article. The basic premise of the article is, will there be a blue wave? And if there is a blue wave, will Bernie Sanders be able to catch a ride on that blue wave? Now, they're not talking about Bernie Sanders himself specifically. They're talking about lefties, progressives, people who Bernie Sanders is supporting, people who Bernie Sanders want to accede to the federal government in 2018. Will they work? Will they be able to get in? On the state and local levels, to some degree, yeah. You've had some really good wins on state and local levels. What about federal? What about federal? What they're finding, and what his point in the article is, well, if you take the current races and how those races have been turning out, lefties have faced some of the same hurdles that they were facing in 2016. Essentially, those things hadn't necessarily been fixed. Those things hadn't necessarily been changed. And the DNC, along with the party establishment, has been putting their thumb on lefty candidates, making it difficult for those candidates to win. Let's take a look at the article. So this is Vanity Fair. Running to the middle does nothing. Can the Bernies catch the blue wave? Up to this point, they're making the point that the people who've been winning were centrists. So far, the Democrats' early success has had centrist tinge, but progressives say it's the same old story of the establishment keeping them out. In rural West Pennsylvania, Connor Lamb won a narrow special election upset in a heavily Republican district by running a largely centrist campaign in favor of fracking, not in favor of single payer. In suburban Chicago, incumbent Dan Lipinski, a throwback blue dog Democrat, anti-abortion, anti-Obamacare, won a primary in a reliably liberal district by defeating a Sanders-endorsed progressive challenger, Marie Newman. And while dozens of Sanders-inspired candidates are on Democratic primary ballots this fall, their chances generally don't appear a whole lot better. The reasons are as varied as the 435 congressional districts, but one consistent bundle appears to be unchanged from the 2016 Sanders-Clinton presidential battle. Despite provoking so much controversy, state parties and Democratic National Committee are weighted in favor of entrenched establishment, entrenched candidates, and traditional big money interest groups. How much money do you have? Great. You make an awesome Democrat. For Tom Perez to be a disappointment as the new leader of the DNC, I would have had high expectations, said Corbin Trent, a former Sanders operative who is now communications director for Justice Democrats, one of the prominent groups launched in the wake of the 2016 election to try to elect progressive Democrats. We have a Democratic Party that won't stand behind candidates with a huge capacity to generate grassroots donations and activity. They're not interested in letting the democratic process shake out. I've somewhat explained that. I mean, part of this is, yeah, you may say a culture, but there's also this thing of when Obama screamed hope and change, screamed it in every mic, hope and change. What did you mean by that? Like when you listen to that and you say, okay, he's saying hope and change, what did you understand hope and change to be? The words are so expansive. They're subjective to the person who's viewing them. There's no way he could deliver on that because it's subjective to the person who's listening to what he's saying. He had no intention on delivering on that because there was no way to deliver on it. It was done for effect. Now, Sanders comes in. The guy calls himself socialist, and he's coming behind Obama, saying all the things Obama said, but actually meaning it and going further in regards to Israel and Palestine, going further in regards to military conflicts around the world, going further, healthcare, education, going further on all of these things. They're supposed to be lefty issues. Obama was supposed to be as far to the left as the Democrat could go. And what do you know? Here's Bernie Sanders, and he has a movement behind him. Apparently, they were wrong. It's not that they were wrong. They just lied. They understood that that wasn't the case. Of course, if you tell people that, yes, we can do these things. The problem is people have been so down on government because of the failures of government, you can understand that people will be like, be a little put off. Let's say it that way. They'd be a little put off when you talk about big government. Point is, though, there is clearly a populace out there that felt the burn. Clearly, there was a populace out there that felt the burn. Look, to put all of this in a nutshell, I don't have to read the article. The basics of the article is the candidates who Sanders is trying to get in, will those candidates be able to catch the blue wave? And right now, up to this point, it doesn't necessarily seem like that blue wave is happening in the favor of the Sanders group. About a year ago, when I started this channel, one of the things that I reviewed when I was talking about the politics of the Democratic Party, I said something to the effect of, what they're trying to do is run out the clock. They're screaming Russia at the top of their lungs, Russia, 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 Trump, Russia, Trump, in order to obfuscate from their own failures. They lost the reality show host. They lost the House, Senate, Supreme Court, and 1,100 seats throughout the United States. That is a magnificent record of failure. If I was trying to fail that much, I don't think I could fail that much, just based on grim probability. I'm trying to get across to you the momentous, monstrous amount of failure that party has endured. And despite that level of failure, stepping on the same sideshow rake, the sideshow bob side, same rake, willing to do it again. This particular time, though, Trump and Russia, they don't necessarily want to deal with the failings that caused them to lose that much. Obfuscate, obfuscate, obfuscate. Find something else, find something else, find something else. Trump and Russia, Trump and Russia. Now, the fact is, they've made Trump up to be such a boogeyman that they've scared shit out of people. And those people have gone and voted for whatever random Democrat they put up. The establishment has helped out putting their thumb on their line, in which case you have a blue wave of status quo. Will there be some progressives that break probability and get in? Maybe. But he's making the point that the overwhelming, it seems like, the trend of this is going towards status quo. The question that I asked back then was, this is a magnificent moment for lefties to try to get some level of power. They need to organize. They need to do something. But I warned, and if I remember correctly, I made the point that it is very possible that you end up with a situation where people being so freaked out by Trump that whatever random wheat bread Democrat that's standing in that slot, in the spotlight, just raises their hand, would get selected and would win office. And you have status quo back in effect. This time with one glaring difference. All of them in line with this idea of Russia besmirched us. Russia did something to us. All of them in this Russia hysteria. I thought this was the worst case scenario, and it seems like that may actually take place. That may actually take place. Meaning for all of the things that took place, all of the 2016, all of the feel of burn, at the end of the day, the Trump and Russia strategy may have hit its mark. Isn't that chilling? Seeing as we may be in a larger conflict. They've done this for political effect. It's purely for political effect. Each of these groups have their strategy. That's the Democratic strategy. We need to get our people back in office. We need to scream Trump and Russia. We don't want to talk about ourselves. We want to keep status quo in line. We think status quo is okay. If we say Trump and Russia or Russia colluded in some way, we can say that status quo didn't fail miserably. We can say that Russia did something to it. So let's put that to the side. Then you have Bernie Sanders' strategy. Bernie Sanders' strategy is, if I jump around the country and people see me, when 2020 comes around, I'll be the guy. I was the face of the Democratic Party. I was the outreach coordinator. I'm not even a goddamn Democrat. I will be their guy. Those people will sign up for Bernie Sanders because they'll be Bernie-crats, if you want to call it that. That's a strategy. Will that work in 2020? Maybe. Is that working for the candidates who are trying to get in office? No. At least not to this point. At least not to this point. And look, our revolution has had wins. Don't misunderstand me. And they may actually have wins through primaries. I mean, during the elections themselves. This particular gentleman is just making the point that it's not looking good. It's not looking good. That being said, Sanders himself, it may work for Sanders. We don't know. We don't know. All I do know is it seems like a bunch of status quo Democrats are just waiting in the wings to take their spots. And it seems like if there is a blue wave, that may be what you actually end up getting. What I will say is this, and maybe I should make this into a separate video. The only way that I can think of to deal with this is to go outside the system. It seems that we are fundamentally different than what they are. I have no idea what the Democratic Party stands for. I would wager that the Democratic Party itself doesn't know what it stands for. Not, the flowery language. I'm talking about an honest 3 a.m. conversation with your God, interrogating you on the shit that you've done in the course of your life, and he's asking you, what do you stand for? That level of honesty when you're having the conversation. I would wager they don't know themselves, or at the very least, if they're being honest with themselves, they would probably say we represent corporate interests with incremental shifts and tweaks to the side. We just need to be least worse than the Republicans. So we're a sliding scale. We don't represent anything, really, just least worse than the Republicans. Republicans -2. Whatever they are, we're a little bit worse. That's just the same party with different wings. We're not them. We're different. We're fundamentally different. How we view government is fundamentally different. What we believe we can accomplish is fundamentally different. And what I would say to you is, what is the point in continuing to vote for a party that doesn't represent your interests? What's the point? I understand people are terrified of Republicans, but what's the point? If you want to get anything done, any radical change, do you honestly believe that you're going to get change to your liking in a party that doesn't want that change? I guess I'm trying to get this point across of, we are fundamentally different. It takes a different strategy. I don't think it works within the Democratic Party itself. I think it needs to be outside of the Democratic Party. I've said this multiple times, and I've said this from the standpoint of, if it's someone who represents your interests in a party, fair enough. But I think we need to be sharper about the way we go about this. Meaning candidates who are running need to consider running as independents. Whether you win or lose or not is slightly besides the point. The point is to add teeth to what you're getting across in the sense of, this needs to change. Democrats are going to complain. They're going to bitch. They're going to moan. Oh my God, you're going to make us lose. That's like saying Republicans are going to make Democrats lose. Different parties. They're not you. He's something else. There's something else. There's something fundamentally different. And at the very least, it puts teeth on this idea that if we're not getting what we want, you're going to lose. You're going to lose. It's no more of this nonsense of you have nowhere else to go. Yes, we do have somewhere else to go. We have somewhere else to go, making your ass lose. You need to break that model of events, that model that says you have nowhere else to go. That labor comes to the table and they say, well, labor is terrified of Republicans, so we can do whatever we want. We can be apathetic towards them. We can pass the Trans-Pacific Partnership. We can pass NAFTA. We can pass these things that actively attack labor, sticking a knife in labor, turning that knife. You need to break that model of events. That's all I'm saying. Adding teeth to your political disposition. Being willing to go outside of the political party apparatus and say, I am something fundamentally different, so I am running as something fundamentally different. They're going to howl, they're going to bitch, they're going to scream, they're going to moan. And at the end of the day, you make the point to them that I tried to run in your party. It didn't work. You left me. I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me. And so I am doing something different. I'm doing something new. If it just so happens you lose because of that, sucks for you. Sucks for you. I'm running this on behalf of a large number of people that realize you don't represent their interests. So even though we don't necessarily have a name, even though we don't necessarily have a moniker, they may call them independents for the time being. It is something different. It is a universe, it's this acknowledgement that we're different. And it's an acknowledgement in a way that adds teeth to the argument of any negotiations with the Democratic Party at all. So I love this article because this article makes this point that what you're trying to do in the Democratic Party system is admirable, but it's not necessarily working. It's not working. Add teeth to the argument. If you're a person who's running in the Democratic Party, if you're one of those lefties, if you're one of those progressives, run immediately as an independent in the main election. Add teeth to your point. You want to cheat us? Fine. We're running in the main election. Oh, that's going to pull votes for you? Sucks. For you. You should have dealt with an even hand when we were dealing with you at first. Stop pussyfooting around on this stuff. If you actually want something to change, you can't keep doing the exact same thing. I don't think Bernie Sanders is intentionally trying to mislead on this. I think he actually believes this. All I'm saying is it doesn't seem to be working. And fact is, you may have a bunch of status quo taken over again after having all of that populist uproar in 2016. It's time to do something different. Let's see. Somebody's here? Who's here this late? 19 people. Fair enough. All right, I'm not gonna keep this one then. Tim Canova in Florida making a determination to run as an independent. That's kind of my point. It adds teeth to your argument. It's not, oh, I just lost in the primaries. Oh, they cheated me. I have nothing else to do. No, you do have something else to do. Run as independent. Either you win or you lose, but you're running to represent the interests of your types. And at the end of the day, those people don't feel like their interests are being represented, and those people will vote for you. If those siphon away votes for the Democrats, those are people who didn't believe that the Democratic Party was representing their interests. And it sucks for the Democratic Party. Should have been honest brokers. Should have been fair. Should have been equal in the way that you were playing your hands in this way. Meaning not necessarily putting your thumb on lefties when they're trying to run in the elections. That's your only, I would say that's your only out. That's your only way of doing the politics. In fact, it is. For people who actually believe that the Democratic Party is worth salvaging and believe that the Democratic Party is worth saving, that is your best way to do it. That is your best weapon. That is your best brick. That is your best utensil to try to get them to change their ways by threatening their capacity to win and doing it over and over and over and over and over again. That is your weapon. If you want to call that the suicide bomb of politics, call it whatever you want to call it. What I will tell you is, at some point, either one or two things will take place. That party will change, or something else will come up to take its place when it can no longer win. Brass knuckle politics, I understand. Scorched earth politics. But stop fucking around. Stop complaining that they're cheating. Stop complaining. Oh, they're cheating us. They're cheating us. They're cheating us. I understand. It's politics. Of course they're going to cheat you. If they believe you have no recourse, of course they're going to cheat you. They have every incentive to cheat you. It's politics. Be cynical in your appraisals. I'll leave it at that. And this is not a shot at Sanders. I think he's being earnest when he's trying to push this. Maybe I'm more cynical than him about his prospects of getting something through the Democratic Party in this way. I think that it's time to have that conversation of, you need to go out the apparatus. For those of us who are still in that mindset of, it must be the Democratic Party. At the very least, the only sword, the only brick that you have at your disposal is having them lose. All your other movements have faded away. This is where we are. What incentive does the Democratic Party have of doing anything that you want if at the end of the day you're just going to whine and continuously vote for Democrat and continuously run in their primaries? Add teeth to your demands. That's my point. Alright guys, if you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support through Patreon. Thanks guys.